The rain hammered against my apartment windows like 1,000 urgent fingers, each drop demanding attention I couldn't give. I'd been absorbed in my book for hours, the kind of night where the world outside ceased to exist. Thunder rolled across the sky, low and menacing, when 3 sharp knocks cut through the storm symphony. I wasn't expecting anyone. At this hour, in this weather, visitors were impossible. Yet there they were again, 3 deliberate knocks that somehow carried urgency despite their softness. Opening the door, I found her. She stood in the hallway, water streaming from her body in rivers, pooling at her bare feet. But it wasn't the rain-soaked clothes clinging to her curves that made my breath catch. It was the rust-colored fox ears pressed flat against her head, trembling, and the bushy tail wrapped protectively around her legs. Both glistened with rainwater, undeniably real. "Please," she whispered, her voice musical even through chattering teeth. Her golden eyes met mine, reflecting the lightning that flashed behind me. "I need shelter." My rational mind screamed warnings, but something deeper, something primal, urged me forward. I stepped aside, and she slipped past me like smoke, bringing the scent of rain and wild forest into my mundane apartment. "I'm Ethan. I managed," closing the door against the storm. Kira. She stood in my entryway, dripping, shivering, utterly out of place among my second-hand furniture and stacked books. When thunder exploded overhead, she flinched so violently I instinctively reached for her. "It's okay. You're safe here." Her eyes searched mine, looking for lies, for tricks. Whatever she found must have satisfied her, because she moved closer, hesitant as a wild animal approaching an offered hand. Another crack of thunder, louder this time, and suddenly she wasn't standing anymore. She'd launched herself at me with supernatural speed, her wet body colliding with mine as her arms wrapped around my torso. Before I could react, she climbed up, her weight settling on my chest as I stumbled backward onto the couch. She curled there, knees drawn up, face pressed against my shirt, her fox ears tickling my chin. "I'm sorry," she breathed against my chest, but she didn't move. "The storm, it's so loud. You're warm. Quiet." I should have pushed her off, should have demanded explanations. Instead, my hand found its way to her hair, stroking gently, carefully avoiding her sensitive ears. She trembled against me, and I felt her tail curl around my leg, seeking more contact, more comfort. "Stay as long as you need," I heard myself say. Through the window, lightning illuminated us, man and fox spirit, strangers bound by a moment neither understood. The storm raged on, but in that embrace, we found unexpected shelter in each other. Kira returned the next night, and the next, always when rain darkened the sky. Each visit, she stayed a little longer, revealed a little more. "I'm not supposed to be here," she admitted on the 4th night, curled against me on the couch, my fingers tracing idle patterns down her spine. The storm outside was gentle tonight, just steady rain and distant rumbles. Guardians aren't meant to seek comfort from humans. Guardians? I prompted, my hand stilling. She shifted, propping herself up to look at me. In the dim lamplight, her golden eyes seemed to glow from within. "I'm bound to the storms, protecting those caught in them, guiding lost travelers to safety. For centuries, I've done this alone." Her tail swished nervously. "But 3 weeks ago, I felt something different. A pull. It led me to you." My heart thundered louder than any storm. "Why me?" "I don't know." Her hand pressed against my chest, right over my racing pulse. "But when I'm near you, the storms don't frighten me. They've always been part of me, my purpose, my prison. You make them feel distant." She leaned closer, her breath warm against my lips. "May I?" I nodded, unable to speak, and she kissed me. Soft at first, exploratory, then deeper as I pulled her closer. She tasted like rain and something wild, something that had never known boundaries or walls. Her body molded against mine, warm despite the chills she brought from outside. When we broke apart, she was breathless, her ears standing upright with emotion. I've watched humans for so long, but I've never felt. "Felt what?" I whispered, tucking a strand of wet hair behind one of those impossible ears. "Connected." She kissed me again, hungrier now, her hand sliding under my shirt, exploring, like I could belong somewhere, with someone. I lifted her easily, carried her in my bedroom while she wrapped her legs around my waist, her tail curling possessively around my thigh. Rain pattered against a window as I laid her on my bed, her copper hair spreading like flames against my pillows. "Are you sure?" I asked, even as my body screamed yes, demanded more. She pulled me down, her lips finding my neck, my collarbone, leaving trails of heat wherever she touched. I've never been more certain of anything. That night, we learned each other in the language of touch and whispered names. Her skin was softer than anything human, and when she gasped my name, Thunder answered. I discovered that her ears were incredibly sensitive, that touching them made her arch and moan in ways that drove me wild. We moved together like the storm itself, building, crashing, releasing. She marked me with her nails, claimed me with her teeth, and I gave myself completely, lost in the magic of her. Afterward, she lay draped across me, her tail wrapped around my leg, her breathing finally steady. "I can't keep leaving," she whispered into the darkness. "Every time I go back to the storm, it hurts more." I held her tighter, feeling the truth of her words in my bones. "Then don't leave." A week passed, and Kira stopped leaving. She moved through my apartment like a beautiful secret, her presence transforming the mundane into magical. She'd perch on the kitchen counter while I cooked, her tail swishing contentedly. She'd curl up in patches of sunlight by the windows, her fox nature emerging in these unguarded moments. But it was the nights that truly bound us. "Tell me about your world," I asked one evening, my fingers threading through her hair as we lay tangled in my sheets. Outside, another storm rolled in. They'd been constant since she'd stayed. "There's not much to tell." She traced patterns on my chest, her touch leaving goosebumps. "I was born from lightning and rain, bound to serve, to protect. I've seen centuries pass, watched humans from a distance. I never—" She paused, pressing a kiss to my shoulder. "I never wanted anything for myself until I found you. And now—" She shifted, straddling me, her golden eyes intense in the half-light. "Now I want everything." She leaned down, her hair creating a curtain around us. "I want mornings with you. I want to learn what makes you laugh. I want—" She kissed me deeply, her hips moving in a slow rhythm that made thought impossible. I gripped her waist, guiding her movements as pleasure built between us. She was exquisite like this, powerful, vulnerable, completely mine. Her ears folded back as sensation overtook her, and I reached up to stroke them gently, knowing how it affected her. "Ethan," she gasped, her pace quickening. "Don't stop. Please." I didn't. We moved together until we both shattered, her cry mingling with thunder, my name on her lips like a prayer. Later, as she dozed against me, I noticed something troubling. Her ears seemed less vibrant, the copper fur slightly dulled. Her tail, usually so expressive, lay limp across my legs. "Kira," I whispered, not wanting to wake her, but needing to know. "Are you okay?" She stirred, those golden eyes fluttering open, tired. "I've never been away from the storms for so long. But I'm happy, Ethan. Happier than I've ever been." Guilt twisted in my gut. "Is staying with me hurting you?" "No." She cupped my face, fierce despite her exhaustion. "Yes. Maybe. I don't know." She laughed softly, sadly. "The storms are my life force, my purpose. Being away from them weakens me. But being without you—" She shook her head. "That would destroy me completely." "There has to be a way," I insisted, pulling her closer. "I'm not losing you." She kissed me gently. "We'll figure out. Together." But as I held her that night, listening to her breathing even out, I wondered if love, even one as powerful as ours, could bridge the gap between her world and mine. I woke to find Kira's side of the bed empty and cold. Panic surged through me as I stumbled into the living room, only to find her standing by the window, staring out at clear skies. For the first time in days, there was no storm. "Kira!" She turned and my heart broke. Her copper hair had faded to a dull rust, her golden eyes dimmed to amber. Even her ears drooped, lacking their usual alertness. But it was her tail that alarmed me most, the fur patchy, lifeless. "I have to go back," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Not forever. I need to reconnect with the storms, to let them strengthen me again." "How long?" "I don't know." She crossed me, her steps uncertain. "Days. Maybe a week. Ethan, I'm sorry." "Don't apologize." I pulled her into my arms, feeling how fragile she'd become. "Do what you need to do. I'll be here when you return." She looked up at me, tears streaming down her cheeks. "What if I can't come back? What if returning to the storms reminds me of my duty, my purpose? What if—" I kissed her, pouring everything I felt into it. Love, fear, hope, desperation. When we broke apart, we were both shaking. "I need you one more time," she breathed against my lips. "Before I go, please." We made love on the living room floor, surrounded by morning light instead of storm darkness. It was different this time, slower, more deliberate, each touch a memory being created. I worshipped every inch of her fading body, trying to give her strength even as she drew what little she had left from our connection. She cried out my name as we climaxed together, and for a moment, her eyes flashed golden again, brilliant and alive. Then the light faded, leaving her exhausted in my arms. "I love you," she whispered. "Remember that, no matter what happens. I love you too." She dressed in silence, pulling on clothes that hung loose on her diminished frame. At the door, she paused, looking back at me with such longing it physically hurt. "Don't wait forever," she said. Then she was gone, and the apartment felt impossibly empty. Days passed, then a week. The weather stayed clear, mocking me with its calmness. I went through the motions of life, work, meals, sleep, but everything felt hollow without her. At night, I'd lie in our bed, clutching her pillow, searching for any remaining trace of her scent. On the 10th day, the storm finally came. It arrived suddenly, violently, shaking my building with its fury. I ran to the window, desperate for any sign of her, and that's when I saw it, a figure in the rain, copper hair streaming, looking up at my window. But she wasn't alone. Another figure stood beside her, tall and imposing, with silver-white ears and multiple tails. An elder guardian, I realized with sinking dread. They were arguing, their gestures sharp and urgent, impossible to hear over the storm's rage. Then Kira looked up at me, our eyes meeting across the distance, and I saw the choice being forced upon her. Duty or love, eternity or mortality, storms or shelter. I pressed my hand against the window, trying to send her every ounce of strength I had, trying to tell her without words that whatever she chose, I would understand, I would accept, I would love her still. The choice was hers. It always had been. The storm raged for 3 days straight, the longest I'd ever experienced in this city. I didn't leave my apartment. Couldn't bear to, knowing she was out there somewhere making an impossible decision. On the 3rd night, as lightning split the sky in two, 3 knocks echoed at my door. I flew across the room, yanking it open. Kira stood there, drenched as she'd been that first night, but transformed. Her copper hair blazed with renewed vitality. Her golden eyes glowed fierce and bright, and her tail swished with barely contained energy. She was magnificent, powerful, fully restored to her supernatural strength. But it was a look in her eyes that made my breath catch, determination mixed with joy, fear tangled with love. "I made a choice," she said, her voice carrying over the thunder. "The Council of Guardians gave me an ultimatum. Return to my duties completely, sever all ties to humanity, to you, or—" She stepped forward, water streaming from her. "Or bind myself to you permanently, become anchored to a single human, a single place. It means giving up my wandering, my freedom. It means—" I pulled her inside and kissed her, cutting off her explanation. She melted against me, her arms wrapping around my neck as I lifted her off her feet, kicking the door closed behind her. "You chose me," I breathed against her lips. "I chose us," she corrected, her hands already working at my shirt. I chose home. We barely made it to the bedroom. Clothes were abandoned in a trail behind us, her renewed strength matching my desperate need. When I laid her on the bed, she was radiant, not fading, not weakening, but glowing with power and purpose. The binding, she gasped as my lips traveled down her neck, finding the sensitive spot that made her arch. It happens through intimacy, through complete union. Tell me what to do, I demanded, my hand sliding between her thighs, finding her ready, wanting. Just love me, she moaned, pulling me over her. Love me completely, hold nothing back, and the magic will do the rest. I entered her slowly, savoring every inch, every gasp she made. Her legs wrapped around my waist, her tail around my thigh, pulling me deeper. We moved together with practiced rhythm, knowing each other's bodies intimately now, understanding exactly how to drive each other wild. But this time was different. As our pleasure built, I felt something else building too, a connection deeper than physical, more permanent than any vow. Golden light began emanating from where our bodies joined, spreading across her skin in intricate patterns like lightning frozen in time. Don't stop, she cried out, her nails raking down my back. Almost there. We're almost. The binding completed as we climaxed together, a shockwave of energy exploding outward, rattling the windows, making the lights flicker. I felt it snap into place, an invisible tether connecting us, heart to heart, soul to soul. Through it, I could feel her emotions flooding into me. Love, relief, completion, home. We lay tangled together afterward, both trembling from the intensity of what we'd shared. The storm outside had gentled to a soft rain, peaceful now. I can still hear them, Kira whispered, her head resting over my heart. The storms. They call to me, need me sometimes. But now I can answer from here, from your side. Our side. She looked up at me, and in her eyes, I saw forever. You're my anchor now, Ethan, my purpose, my home. I kissed her forehead, her ears, her lips, and you're mine. However long we have, mortal years or something more, I'm yours. She smiled, that wild, beautiful smile that had captured me from the first night. The binding grants longevity to both partners. You won't age as humans do anymore. We have centuries together, if we want them. I want them all, I said fiercely. Every storm, every calm, every moment. Thunder rumbled approvingly outside, and Kira laughed, the sound like music. She climbed on top of me again, her copper hair falling around us like a curtain, her eyes gleaming with mischief and desire. Good, she purred, her hips beginning a slow rhythm, because I'm nowhere near done with you tonight. The storm outside echoed our passion, lightning illuminating us in flashes, as we loved each other into the dawn. And when morning came, Kira remained, not a visitor anymore, not a guardian passing through, but home at last, exactly where she belonged, in my arms, in my heart, in the shelter we created together, where even the fiercest storms could find peace. Years later, people would whisper about the apartment on the 7th floor, where storms always seemed gentler, where a beautiful woman with unusual features could sometimes be seen at the window, guiding lost travelers to safety with nothing but a gesture. And if anyone asked Ethan about his mysterious partner, he would only smile and say she'd come to him during a storm and had chosen to stay forever. Some shelters, after all, are worth protecting for eternity.